Hello there, I'm Olivia Clem and I have a special guest with me today. I'm sure by now you've heard about the wind project proposed for DeWitt County. For those of you who may be unaware of the current state of affairs, a special use permit application has been submitted to build a wind energy conversion system in DeWitt County. This project would include 67 turbines, most of which would be at a height of 591 feet. We have a model of that here for you compared to the size of an average two-story home. The committees appointed by the County Board, the Regional Planning Commission, and the Zoning Board of Appeals, known as the RPC and the ZBA, have already heard testimony and recommended to the County Board to deny the special use permit in its entirety. The County Board will then make their final decision on April 25th at the Clinton High School auditorium beginning at 5 p.m. It will then decide whether or not it's going to honor the recommendations provided to them by their two appointed committees. One of the standards that this application must meet is a safety criteria. A new structure built in our county must not endanger the public's safety. So we are speaking today with Don Waddell. Mr. Waddell is a resident of DeWitt County and has also been a longtime advocate for public safety. He's been using his expertise and training to provide services to the residents of our county, which helps protect the lives of the people who live and visit here. On February 19th, Mr. Waddell provided expert testimony to the DeWitt County Zoning Board, presenting research as to why the special use permit does not meet that safety criteria that I spoke of. His concern, based on extensive research, is that the existence of a wind energy conversion system in relation to the Lincoln weather radar would impose a safety threat and could endanger the lives of those residents here and in nearby counties as well. So I am speaking with Mr. Waddell today to learn more about his research. So Mr. Waddell, you have been interested for a long time and invested in the protection and safety of DeWitt County residents. Would you share with us your background that put you in a position to do the research that you did?
Sure. Well, it all started personally in the late 70s when Central Illinois had a tornado outbreak that really caught and captured my attention. I became a storm spotter, became an emergency manager for a local city here in Central Illinois. That led to emergency preparedness, emergency planning responsibilities for Clinton Power Station. I've been a resident of DeWitt County for over 30 years. So I've always had this fascination and concern about public safety with respect to tornadoes. I am a degreed physicist, so I understand the technical nature of this. I am a licensed FCC, a Federal Communications Commission radio operator, so I understand radio interference. I am a member of the American Meteorological Society, so this is something that I've got a passion about. Tornadoes and this public safety around it is something that I've studied for years.
You've been invested in this for a long time, which put you in a position to do the research that you did when you became concerned about the proposed location of the wind project. Would you share with us in just a sentence or two about what your concern is?
Sure. Because of the National Weather Service radar technology over the last couple of decades, we've been able to get advanced warning of tornadoes well before they're formed. And the advent of a wind project in this particular location will interfere with the National Weather Service forecaster's ability to see into the storm and predict the conditions that are favorable for a tornado. We can miss or delay tornado warnings for the public, which means that we don't have as much time for taking shelter.
That sounds like a very serious concern. And so for those of us who don't understand quite as much, would you explain to the viewers how tornado detection usually occurs?
Sure. The National Weather Service Doppler radar is a very sophisticated radar. It not only tells us the location and movement of a storm, but it also looks into the storm and is able to determine rotation, the rotation that is necessary for a tornado to develop.
Okay. And then there are factors that can interfere with that typical process, correct?
Right. Whenever you interfere with the radar's ability to see the rotation, then it's not able, the National Weather Service isn't able to distinguish a rotation that's necessary for a tornado. So factors that make this particular wind farm a significantly serious situation is the proximity, or how close the wind farm is to the National Weather Service radar in Lincoln, the height of the towers, which will be the tallest towers ever to be put in Illinois. The fact that the towers are located on high ground with respect to the radar itself. The size of the rotors or the blades, the greater the size, the more impact to the radar. And the fact that we have communities such as Waynesville, Clinton, Kinney, Wapella that are on the perimeter of the wind farm area, such that if we had a tornado that came out that couldn't be seen inside the wind farm area by the radar, if it came out of that area, there isn't any time to warn people.
So without taking the situation lightly and using a play on words here, this sounds like the perfect storm of all the factors that could cause grave danger to a community.
Exactly right. The National Weather Service has for a decade warned of the time when wind farms will be too tall and too close to their radars and will actually impede their safety mission. This, because of the nature of all those factors that we've talked about, will make this a particularly serious situation, and it is the epitome of what the National Weather Service has been warning against for many years.
So put the two together for us. You spoke about how radar detection usually works and about the factors that could interfere with that. How would the normal process be compromised if 67 of these turbines would be built in the proposed location?
Well, first off, the turbines create turbulence, just like a fan. We don't see it, but the turbulence that's caused by the wind turbines is something that is very vivid to the radar. The radar cannot determine whether that's rotation from a storm or a possible tornado, or is it turbulence from a wind farm.
Right.
So the advent of a wind farm in this area blinds the weather forecasters to weather conditions that they need to know and be able to assess for severe weather.
And so ultimately, based on what I'm hearing you explain, then the blockage of the proper sightings would not be visible until after that severe weather passes out of the wind farm area, and by that point there would not be sufficient time for residents to reach safety. Am I understanding you correct?
That's exactly right. We depend on the radar to tell us before a tornado is formed that there's rotation and the possibility of a tornado exists. Without that technology that is relatively new, last couple decades or so, without that technology, we resort to actually having to see the tornado first before we're able to get a warning. And by that time, it could be too late.
Well, we do have weather spotters, correct? Can't we just rely on them?
Sure, we rely on weather spotters today to confirm what the radar is saying. But just like you or I, if the weather spotter sees a tornado, it's already too late. We've cut into the warning time, and we've lost the ability to see it on radar in advance of its formation if the wind farm is interfering with the radar.
And, I'm thinking about the children that we might have to get to safety in a school situation, or the hospital that has patients that they need to care for, or the nursing home that's in our county, or those with special needs, those that require some extra warning time. It's dangerous for everyone, but particularly possibly even more dangerous for those that require some of that lead time.
Absolutely. Every minute counts, and experience has shown that the more time people have to take shelter, the more likely it is they'll survive an event. So it's very important that we make continued use of the technology to warn us in advance of the tornado's actual formation.
And you spoke about a radar line, am I using that term correctly, to cite this dangerous weather? Can't we just move that line so that it's searching above the wind farm? Would that be a solution?
That's not a solution at all. The weather radar is sited so that it is able to see all of central Illinois, and we need to be able to see all the volume of air to be able to analyze all the possible conditions. If you were able to raise the radar to look over the wind farm, you wouldn't be able to see vast areas of central Illinois. So that's not an option at all.
So you're speaking about central Illinois. Is there danger to folks even outside of the immediate Clinton, Wapella, Kenny area that you spoke of? Does this danger extend further out into our communities?
Certainly the interference extends well beyond the wind farm area. Because of the size, height, proximity of this particular wind farm to the radar, it is actually casting a shadow in the downrange direction. So the radar has more difficulty seeing through that clutter to see what else is going on in central Illinois.
For those of us, to put it into some terminology and experiences that we can relate to, there was some talk on December 1st with the wind farm in Maroa that the radar blocked some detection there, and we heard about some dangerous situation. Can we relate to what happened on December 1st? Is that what you're speaking about?
Sure, that's a very good example of the kinds of interference I'm talking about. The tornado that actually struck Taylorville on December 1st made its way northeast through central Illinois.
Correct.
As it entered into Macon County, that area of rotation was very profound on radar until such time as that area entered into the wind farm area near Maroa. As soon as that area of rotation entered the wind farm, it disappeared completely from radar. And it didn't show up again until that area of rotation exited the wind farm area just southeast of Maroa. That area of rotation continued on its way northeast and spawned additional tornadoes in northern DeWitt County and in McLean County.
I heard you testify to the zoning board about something called a mitigation zone, which is established by the National Weather Service. Would you explain to our viewers what that mitigation zone is and how it relates to the concerns that you've researched?
Right. So around every Doppler radar in the United States, weather radar, there's 160 of them. Well, we're fortunate to have one in Lincoln. There is an established mitigation zone that defines the area in which an obstacle such as a wind turbine would have moderate to severe interference to the radar. So the idea is to not put things in the mitigation zone for a radar. Well, actually, 1/3 of the Alta II wind turbines will fall within the mitigation zone of the Lincoln National Weather Service Doppler radar, a place where we don't want these to be.
Wasn't Tradewinds required to submit some of this information in their application?
Yes, in their application, Tradewinds provided a letter from the U.S. government, the National Telecommunication and Information Administration, that talked about the summary of the assessment that this wind farm will have on the National Weather Service Doppler radar. And that letter had an enclosure that was also submitted in the Tradewinds application. That enclosure was completely redacted. So I had a feeling I knew what that enclosure was, so I, under the Freedom of Information Act, I went ahead and obtained a copy of that letter and its enclosure. And the redacted enclosure was in fact an illustration of the mitigation zone and the relationship of the Alta Farms 2 project to the mitigation zone for Lincoln. The problem was that they used the wrong mitigation zone. The letter shows that the project is outside of the mitigation zone, when in fact 1/3 of the turbines are indeed in the mitigation zone. And in fact, that was corroborated by an individual who runs the Radar Operations Center for the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma, and she has informed me that in fact my calculations were correct. 1/3 of the turbines are inside the mitigation zone for Lincoln.
It sounds as though the application submitted by Tradewinds had inaccurate, incomplete, and untrustworthy information.
That's correct.
Let me play devil's advocate for those who might be skeptical. If this concern is truly a public safety issue, why isn't the National Weather Service alerting the public about this danger?
The National Weather Service cannot speak for or against publicly a particular wind energy project. They're prohibited by law from doing so. And in fact, employees of the National Weather Service, under threat of criminal prosecution, cannot speak their mind about a particular wind energy project.
So even though the National Weather Service might be aware of this danger, the wind companies have basically tied their hands in alerting the public.
Right. Of a danger such as this, the National Weather Service cannot speak out against it. It's people like us that need to be able to be their voice and raise our concerns.
Okay. I am sure that residents of DeWitt County, as they hear your message and become educated about this serious issue, are going to have concerns, as they should. What advice do you have for residents?
Well, it's important to share this video and get the information out to friends and family. This is a serious threat, a very serious threat to our community. Talk to the board members that will be voting on whether to grant a special use permit, and writing letters to the editors of local newspapers. It's very important that this particular matter be very well communicated so that we can ensure that the county board members are well informed to make the right decision.
It was clear to the zoning board that this project does not meet the safety standards. Now the county board has to make their determination on April 25th. What words do you have for our county board members?
This is a very, very serious situation. They need to understand this is unlike any other wind farm in central Illinois. In fact, probably not like any other wind farm in the nation. They have information here that clearly black and white says that the construction of this particular wind farm in this area will be detrimental to the public, and it will decrease the public's margin of safety. They cannot allow this permit to be approved.
No compromise. Right?
No compromise. There's no way to fix this. This is not the place for this wind farm.